and colleague, Inner Circle, Sports Illustrated writer, Kansas City Chiefs. How are you doing today?
Max, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me back on. It's always a good time.
Yes, sir. Once a week, we have you on. Broke down the end of NFL, the end of the regular season, the postseason, and now we're finally here for the Super Bowl. We have the Chiefs, we have the Bucks. We both went with the Chiefs, but we were wrong about the Packers and the Bucks. So we'll dive into that. What did you make of everything? It was spectacular football, huh?
Yeah, no, it was, man. I kind of expected a little more out of Josh Allen. That was the only letdown that I think happened over the weekend. But man, the Green Bay Tampa game was great. The Chiefs kind of did Chiefs things, I think. So it was a good weekend of football for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about the the Bucks Packers game. What surprised you? Because we both had the Packers. What surprised you about that game where you're like, man, the Bucks are really about to pull this off? What's the first thing that you noticed?
Man, really, it started in the first half. I mean, Brady was dropping dimes all half. They had that blown coverage at the end of the first half that they went into halftime with another touchdown after they got the ball back. Man, it was. I never blame officiating in games. Like, I think that's a weak excuse. I think, like, don't put yourself in the positions where you have to blame the officials or whatever. But the Murphy Bunting got away with a hold and then got the interception, which set up the touchdown. So I was like, all right, whatever. Then at the end of the game, Kevin King, it was obviously a hold. Like, it was definitely a penalty, but they weren't calling stuff like that all game. Then in the final play for Tampa and Green Bay that really sealed the game. So that was a little weird. But overall, man, you have to capitalize off turnovers. Like, Brady's only going to make so many mistakes, and Green Bay couldn't go down the field and put up points off of those, and that's ultimately what kind of kept them from being able to complete that comeback.
So what does this say about the Tom Brady Aaron Rodgers rivalry, right? Because we never really got to see them play each other. And then finally they play each other in the regular season. And Tom Brady, remember, is 43 years old. So this isn't even prime Tom Brady. This is 43-year-old Tom Brady. Beats him in the regular season. And now finally we're like, wow, we get to see Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. I know Tom Brady's old. I know this isn't the Patriots, but still we get to see them go head to head. And he beats Aaron Rodgers at age 43. So does this kind of just put in – I think we all thought Tom Brady was the GOAT, but for some reason they always had this rivalry. Like, okay, well, Aaron Rodgers is more talented, but Tom Brady's the GOAT. Does this just put everything to rest now?
I think it does, but I mean, it really adds fuel to both narratives. And like, that game summarized their careers. I mean, the first half, Rodgers' defense made a ton of mistakes. Then he came close and couldn't get the job done. He outplayed Tom Brady. I think Brady played horrible in that second half and was able to get away with the win. I mean, Brady's had several playoff games where he didn't play well and was able to pick up the win. Rodgers has had several where he was lights out and either he got into overtime and never got to see the field. His defense blew it at the last minute. His defense gave up 45 points. I mean, it sucks because people are going to pile on Aaron Rodgers in 5 or 10 years. No one's going to remember the context of what happened. And the same thing with Tom Brady. Like, this is his 10th Super Bowl. And if he would have got like the treatment for not playing well, if he would have been on a worse team or something like that, he wouldn't have been in that Super Bowl. So I think it just really, the GOAT kind of conversation, I think, has been pretty solidified for a long time. Like, Brady's definitely the GOAT no matter what. But Rodgers, like, people always said if you put him in Brady's shoes, he would have however many rings or whatever. So it was fun to finally see them get to square off.
I would say this, though. Even though Aaron Rodgers may be talented, I don't think he has the leadership intangibles that Brady has. So even if you do put him in his shoes, there's a reason why Tom Brady was able to maximize his full potential. It is that leadership, and that's something that doesn't show up on a stat sheet. Now, Aaron Rodgers, he had opportunities to come down the field and went 3 and out. So it's not like he didn't have the opportunity to do that. What did you make of his press conference afterwards? He was like, I'm unsure about what's going on with me and a lot of people on these teams. I just felt like instead of putting out the fire, he kind of put gasoline on it. And now we're like, oh, man, what is it going to – I feel like that was unnecessary. What did you make of that?
No, it was. And, like, that's classic Aaron Rodgers, like, kind of being dramatic a little bit. And, like, if he would have played literally a perfect game, I would understand it. But he had several drives where he could have went down the field and didn't. And then on that 3rd and goal, he tried to throw it into double coverage instead of at least trying to run the ball into the end zone. Even if he doesn't get there, you're set up at like probably the 2-yard line. Like he had plenty of chances where he could have made plays or could have put up points and didn't. So his future, he's obviously going to be in Green Bay. Like I don't know why he said that. Then he went on and tried to say he was talking about Aaron Jones and guys like that. Like that's just how he is. And he's a great, great, great quarterback, but he wasn't perfect.
Old Aaron Rodgers, I feel, would have ran that.
I think so too.
Yeah, old Aaron Rodgers would have ran that ball.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He obviously there's complaints like, okay, about the defense and whatnot, but he had the opportunities and wasn't able to do it. But like you said, Tom Brady did throw a bunch of picks in that second half. So it's not like Tom Brady's perfect by any means either. But yeah, we are seeing Tom Brady go to a 10th Super Bowl, attempting to get his 7th championship. If he wins this 7th championship, does that make him, unless he already is in your eyes, the GOAT of all GOATs? I know it's kind of hard to cross and compare sports, but to go to a second team in your first year and go to a 10th Super Bowl, how do you put that into words?
It's crazy. I mean, it's a lot of good luck, but it's also a lot of him being that good. Like,
yeah,
if he had Aaron Rodgers' talent, he would be like literally the GOAT of GOATs. But also the reason he's so good, I think, is because he's never had that talent. He's had to work hard and has a chip on the shoulder for everything that he has. He's a great leader. He's smart. He brings that charisma. I mean, people would run through a wall for Tom Brady, and like I'm sure they would for Aaron Rodgers too, or Drew Brees or Peyton Manning or whatever. But there's only one Tom Brady. He is a rare breed. I don't know if he's like the GOAT of GOATs because it's really hard to compare those guys. But I mean, it's Brady and Jordan, I think. And really, there's another thing. Like me and you think that LeBron's probably the GOAT over Michael Jordan, even though he doesn't have those rings. So it's hard to tell. But until someone like Mahomes plays a full career and we see like how that unfolds, Brady's got to be that dude.
Okay, so you brought up Mahomes. That's what I want to transition to. So the only person that we feel can kind of attack Tom Brady's legacy in a way is Mahomes. But we have to see how that plays out. Obviously, longevity, health, roster, there's a little bit of luck involved. But as far as a start to a career, if he were to win a championship, even if he doesn't, you can argue this, but let's just say hypothetically he wins a championship. Is he the best start of a career we've ever seen? Does he have that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's 25, and at this point, he's got like 40 more touchdowns than Brady did at this point. He's going to have hopefully the same amount of rings if they're both 2 for 2 so far. So he has the 50 touchdown season. He's going to have 1 MVP, 1 top 2 finish, probably maybe 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Like it's going to be insane. And he has the talent. And I think that leadership and the pettiness and the drive and everything to where if everything goes right and the coaching and all that stuff, the front office, where he could maybe challenge for it. People that say like he's a top 5 quarterback ever already, obviously if he retired today, he wouldn't be there, but his trajectory is looking pretty good.
Now you talked about the pettiness. You sent me that on Twitter and we talked about it. He is petty, and that's what makes the all-time greats the greats. I mean, LeBron James just dropped 46 the other night, and he said the fourth quarter is my favorite quarter. He scored 21 in the fourth because he thought one of the staff members of the Cavs was celebrating a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And so that's what he said. Like the all-time greats just find things to kind of channel that greatness. And to your point that you've been saying this whole time, Patrick Mahomes is petty, and he made sure it was known. He knew all of the storylines and expectations with the Bills, and we saw it against the Bills.
Yeah, and man, even like Steph Curry, Andrew Bogut said that he would go into the locker room at halftime and look at his social media and then go out and drop like 30 points. Like all of those greats, they're not hated on a ton. Like LeBron gets a ton of hate, but he also gets a ton of praise. Those guys have to like look for something to motivate them sometimes. And like even the Michael Jordan story about getting cut from his high school team. He didn't get cut from his high school team. He was just playing JV to start off. Like he just ran with that narrative to motivate himself moving forward. Like he just, if someone didn't look at him the right way, he'd be like, oh, that guy hates me. I'm just going to go do it for him. Like people just make up stuff to motivate themselves. And even the slightest thing can set them off. And like, I forget what I sent you. I think it was someone who replied and said the refs helped you get to another Super Bowl or something. And Mahomes just liked it and went about his day.
Yeah. He definitely pays attention. And one thing about this Chiefs team that's really interesting, Jordan, not only this year but next year, they'll be able to afford the same roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like next year is the last year that they'll have where, okay, we can afford Patrick Mahomes and yet afford all the weapons around him. So we could be looking at. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because obviously he has to win this Super Bowl, but we could be looking at a potential three-peat because of the salary cap and how it works for them, right?
Yeah, they're like this exact. They brought back like I think it was 18 of 22 Super Bowl starters, like after all the opt outs and stuff. So I don't think that will happen just because the cap's going down and they'll have to make a lot of tough decisions. But like the core, Kelsey, Hill, Mahomes, Matthew, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, they're all under contract. Like the
Yeah.
dudes are coming back moving forward. So if they can draft right and kind of, it sucks that they lost Eric Fisher, their left tackle. He tore his Achilles. So that's going to clear up some cap space, I guess. But left tackle is super important. But man, they have the pieces to. It's. I think if they don't do it next year, it's going to be more of a mental thing where it just wore them out rather than them not being talented enough.
Let me ask you this. Do you think Mahomes and like their culture isn't spoken about enough? We talk about their talent and you're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, this guy's so talented. Travis Kelce's so talented, but like
Mm-hmm.
they're loose when they play behind. They seem like they all have love for each other. Is that something that is almost as important as the talent? Because what can you talk to me about the culture that they have?
Yeah, no, 110%. And I'm glad you brought that up because, like, I bring that up every chance I get because people never talk about how leadership is important with the team, fit, camaraderie, having that leadership, not even just with the players, with the front office, with the coaching staff, with the community. Like, Mahomes is the best 25-year-old leader I've probably ever seen in sports. Like, LeBron was a great leader. Jordan was a great leader. Brady at 25 is great. Mahomes, like, McCall Hardman, they had all of them mic'd up or whatever after that fumble he had. Mahomes came over and said, just be yourself. Let's be us. Let's go come back and win. Like in the Houston game when they were down 24-0, he was like, just be yourselves, believe in each other. Let's go. Like he's great. Andy Reid believes in them. You have Tyrann Mathieu on the other side, who's probably a top 10 leader in the league. Like I love him. Kelsey has grown up a lot. The locker room is really strong. I think that with COVID going around and all the drama that other teams have had with that, the Chiefs haven't had any scares with COVID. They haven't had any off the field issues all season. Like they're really special, and I think that's a huge part of being a championship team.
It reminds me of the Golden State Warriors. Like it really
Yeah,
does. Everything
yeah.
about them keeps reminding me about the Warriors. So let's go right into the championship game, the moment we've all been waiting for. Chiefs, Bucks, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Does it feel like the passing of the torch officially if Mahomes wins, right? You got the GOAT,
Hmm.
the 43-year-old guy who's always in the Super Bowl, and now the new dynasty, the new guy, the new face of the league. Is that what this is shaping up to be?
I think so. Like you get the people who say Mahomes is only good because of his weapons or Andy Reid or any of that stuff.
Mhm.
And like obviously that's a part of it, but that's every quarterback. They're the sum of their parts. But man, if Brady beats Mahomes, that's going to be tough to swallow for him. I mean, to have the GOAT come in at the age of 43, his first year on a new team to beat you in the Super Bowl. But then again, if you're Brady and the young gun beats you in a Super Bowl, I think that he has so much respect for Mahomes that he obviously would never say like he's next up, I'm passing the torch, but like everyone would know that that's kind of the passing of the torch in the NFL.
So what would that mean though for Mahomes? Like you said, if
I
he lose to Brady, what does that mean? Because he's better than Tom Brady right now. Like I
yeah.
don't think that's the question. He's better than Tom Brady, but if Tom Brady wins the championship, does that change anything? Like what do we take away from that?
I think it depends on how he plays. Like through three quarters in the Super Bowl last year, Mahomes didn't play well at all. Like that was one of his worst games. But then in the fourth quarter, he came alive and led the comeback. So everyone kind of forgot about that. Which the same thing would have happened. It did happen for Brady. Like if he throws three interceptions last week and loses, everyone says, I don't know, it's Tom Brady's fault. But he threw three and won. So everyone's like, oh, he played well enough to win. And that's kind of why, like, I don't get. I think the process is more important than the results sometimes. And like Brady's results are fantastic, but the process hasn't always been great. But I
Yeah.
think it comes down to how they play. Like if Brady comes out and throws ducks and somehow wins, then people are going to talk about Mahomes. But if Mahomes comes out, plays well and loses, I think that he hasn't really earned that Brady benefit of the doubt yet. Like where people will sweep stuff under the rug. Like Mahomes is still under a microscope because he's still young. He's up and coming. Brady, they're kind of like whatever. He's still Tom Brady. So I think it means more to Mahomes than it does to Brady because Brady's done, I mean, pretty much everything he could ever accomplish.
Right. So let's get down to the nitty gritty, the moment we've all been waiting for, your prediction and how you see the game going. I'll let you go first. You're the guest. I'll let you go first.
Man, I'm not going to lie. I was hoping that we did a prediction episode next week because I have not thought about it yet. So no. I think we should because I'm probably going to change my mind like 10 times.
Okay, yeah. Let's save it for next week then. And so then we could break down everything the way.
And then we'll have like an injury update and stuff like that too.
There we go. So yeah, that's what we'll do. So we'll save the prediction for next week. Then on that note, then if we're going to save our Super Bowl prediction for next week, let me run this theory I have past you that I did earlier. It's an NBA topic though.
All right, bet.
So I talked about the Brooklyn Nets, and I said there's 3 ways to break down the game of basketball. And I said there's statistics, right? Being ahead of the curve, analytics can tell you a lot. But then there's the eye test. Not everything shows up on a stat sheet. It's like, do you put in that pitcher? Because according to analytics, you don't do it. But you know the feel of the game, the momentum of the game, you put in the pitcher. And then lastly is the history of the game. And like to understand where you're trying to go, you have to understand where you've been. So even though there's been outliers where it hasn't happened in history, it can happen. With the Brooklyn Nets, we've seen 3 stars work before, right? Miami, Boston. We've seen 2 ball-dominant players work, LeBron and Dwayne Wade, but we've never seen it where the third best player is the guy who doesn't need the ball. Because when you look at Golden State, that was a motion offense. It wasn't a ball-dominant system. Yeah. So we've never seen that work. I'm not even talking about the personalities, not even talking about the egos, just the playing style alone. And so my grandfather always used to say, find a need and fill it. So the Brooklyn Nets' need is depth, defense, and some size. How do you fill it? And I would say trade Kyrie Irving. If you trade Kyrie Irving, you get the depth, you'd get some size, and of course it's 2021, make sure there's shooting involved, and then you have the star power with Kevin Durant and James Harden. This isn't me attacking Kyrie Irving. I think he's pound for pound, arguably the most talented player in the league. I think he's awesome. I love what he does for the game of basketball. But in the business of winning, because that's what you're ultimately trying to do is win, take away emotion and just look at it on what you need. And on paper and the eye test and the history of the game, that's what they need. I would trade Kyrie Irving. Am I crazy for thinking that?
No, you're not, man. Like, they've played some really good games together, and like there will be times where if they do stay together where Durant has an off night, so then Harden and Kyrie pick him up, or Kyrie's off, like that's just how it goes. But man, like with Golden State, Clay played off the ball willingly and let Steph and KD do their thing. Bosh played off the ball and would kind of be a jump shooter, like a glorified jump shooting big. Kevin Love was a glorified jump shooting big. Like LeBron and AD is 2, Kawhi and Paul George is 2, Luka and Porzingis, if they ever get there, is going to be 2. Giannis and Chris Middleton is 2. Like, there aren't a ton of triplets in the NBA who are going to go off without that ball dominant or non-ball dominant player. And like Kyrie's ball dominant, Harden, like I think he can play a little bit off the ball, but he's still an extremely ball dominant player. And then Kevin Durant, like I think Durant would be the most likely of the 3 to play off the ball ish. Like
so in order to max Kyrie and James Harden, they need the ball to maximize them, which means you're taking away from your best player. So your best player taking the third role doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, the thing is, like, A, where do you send him, and B, what do you get for him? But, like, in theory, like, the principle itself, I think that if they made any moves, that would be one that made sense.
Right, because typically, don't outthink the room. If you land the superstar, you typically won the trade in the NBA.
Sure.
But in this sense, when you have the superstars, you have the capital already. In this instance, I think it makes way more sense. I know you're trading the sexy, flashy player for people that aren't as flashy, but it makes sense if you want the longevity of a championship team and truly maximize what you have here. I think to win a championship or championships, that makes the most sense. Now, if they don't trade anybody and they have the roster that they have, I think they probably could go to the finals just off pure talent, like just ridiculous talent.
Yeah.
I don't think they win the championship over the Lakers, and I don't think that would last a long time. So that's why I would say trade Kyrie. But to your point, I don't know necessarily a trade that would make sense where a team, what's the market like for Kyrie, salary cap wise, because he is expensive. But I just picture like a Trevor Ariza and like role players like that to go alongside a KD.
PJ Tucker, something like that.
Yeah. You put that with KD and James Harden, it's like, man, I think that's more of a layered championship team.
Yeah, no, there definitely is a trade-off with them. Like, you're getting the offense, you're getting the star power, you're getting the fun, you're getting the showtime, but you're not getting much at the center position. You're having to play small ball a lot. You're having to play DeAndre Jordan a lot. Your defense is not great. Your depth isn't great, and they don't have LeVert anymore. Dinwiddie's out, so they're already hurting there. Like, there's pros and cons to it, and I think that the buyout market is going to be absolutely huge for them, so they can get anyone they can if anyone gets bought out and sent elsewhere. But man, like, JJ Redick was the guy that was brought up. I mean, he's depth, but he doesn't play defense. He's not a big. Lonzo Ball, there's no need for Lonzo Ball there because he'd be coming off the bench, and I just don't like that fit. Like, the trade market right now, Andre Drummond is extremely expensive. Kevin Love is extremely expensive. And you would have to be, like, sending something out in return for those players. And I think that there's only a certain amount of moves they can make. But like you said, they're probably going to get to the finals just based off of what they have, which, I mean, that's good. But long term, you have to think about how you want to build your team. It seems like they put all their eggs in one basket for pretty much 1 year.
Yeah. Now, selfishly, I want to see Lonzo in Orlando. I just think that would be good for him, especially with Cole Anthony. He needs a dynamic Markelle Fultz's injury. And then with all the athleticism you have, the lobs would be ridiculous. Him and Aaron Gordon. I think Lonzo in Orlando makes the most sense, especially getting the best out of him and yet the best for Orlando. I think that makes a lot of sense. And this may sound a little crazy, but maybe even like a Miami or a Golden State. And it's like Miami has Dragic, and I understand that, but having another young player to play defense and move the ball to go with Bam and Jimmy, but then also Golden State, where Steph Curry has so much pressure for the playmaking and he has so much pressure for the scoring. If you can have a guy like Lonzo, he's got the playmaking. He can guard the wing on the perimeter. The elite guards, you don't have to worry about Steph working defensively either. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then when Klay comes back, you have a point guard who can facilitate everybody because Steph doesn't really play the true point guard position the way other point guards play.
Yeah, no, I like both Redick and Lonzo for Golden State. I think that they'd both be, because they need shooting and they need someone to take pressure off Steph, and they would get both of those. And some defense at the point guard position. Lonzo would bring that. But man, I was thinking the Knicks and Lonzo wouldn't be a terrible fit. He plays defense, so he fits the culture. Obi Toppin, they could run pick and rolls all day. Randall's going to be leaving soon, so you kind of need that offensive engine, and having that guy be your power forward, like, he's kind of a hybrid post type player. I know that Rashad Phillips is doing that new position dictionary, which shout out to Rashad. That is like
incredible.
Absolutely. It's phenomenal. Like, I've been using that and people are like, what are you talking about? It was like a Dame and Steph argument. And I was like, first of all, can we stop comparing them? B, they're not point guards. He was like, do you even watch basketball? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, clearly we just are on two different levels of talking here. But man, Lonzo and the Knicks, Lonzo and the Warriors. I just don't like Lonzo and the Pelicans. That's the problem. And that's where he is right now. So I for his sake and for their sake, I hope that they split up.
Yeah. No, like I said, selfishly, because right now I'm near Orlando, I want to see Lonzo in Orlando.
That'd be cool.
But I just think him and Curry makes sense. Him in New York makes a lot of sense. Either way, I think we're going to see – I would love to see him play with his brother. I think that would be cool. So, like, I would just want to see Lonzo in a good situation because I've been a fan of his game since UCLA. I've loved watching Lonzo play, and I just don't think people understand him because at first the expectations were ridiculous, and then expectations are everything. So, I mean, the expectations for him to be, he's better than LeBron. He's better than Steph Curry. So, of course, you're setting him up for failure. And then people wanted him to be a scorer, but that's not what he is. He's not a scorer. So, I just think he needs the right situation. And then all of a sudden, we're going to start to see the Lonzo that I know he can be.
Yeah, and we saw it for a little bit last year. I think it was before the bubble he got there, man. And he was scoring well. He was spacing the floor. His three ball was falling, which I think he's a reliable 3-point shooter now. I don't think that it's a big problem anymore. But man, the Pelicans, like, they don't have any spacing right now. And you can tell Brandon Ingram, I see people tweet all the time, Ingram needs to attack the rim, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, he has Zion and Steven Adams in the paint. Like, he's not going to be able to attack the rim or else he's going to run into his own man. Like, I love Steven Adams. I think he's a great defender. He's a good culture guy. He's physical. He's tough. But, like, why would you think that Adams would be a good fit with Zion? Like,
I don't think Van Gundy coach for it either. I don't think so.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Yeah. I don't think he does well with the talent that you have and the system he has in place. I don't think works. Jordan, I appreciate you as always. Jordan Foote. We broke down NFL, finally got to talk some NBA as well. And then next week, we're going to have our Super Bowl prediction. Where can they find you to yell at you now? They may not have liked anything you've said today. So where can they send you angry comments on Twitter and Instagram?
Man, follow me at jfoot_ on Instagram. I don't really get on there all too much, but if you're mad at me, then go ahead and at me at footnoted on Twitter because, like, I'm always on Twitter. So I will see it instantly. I'll probably reply because that's just who I am. It'll be something nice, like thanks for the nice comment or something. But
yeah, kill him.
Man, yes, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on, dude.
Yes, sir. Jordan Foote. Until next time, talk soon.
Yes, sir.